Here we are, guys. Day 19 of 25 Days of Christmas Horror. We're finally starting to get towards that end. And today's movie is the 2018 film, A Christmas Horror Story. This movie is rated R, has a runtime of 1 hour, 39 minutes, and an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, out of all the movies on this list, this was one that I've been most excited about watching. I've been wanting to watch it a couple years, but never got around to it. So can it live up to what I was hoping it was going to be? Well, slight spoiler warning since it's a newer movie. But let's get into A Christmas Horror Story. So this movie isn't just one story, it's actually an anthology of 4 shorter stories, with scenes with a radio host named Dangerous Dan in between. Who plays Dangerous Dan, you may ask? James T. Kirk himself, William Shatner. Yes, this movie already got good. So this movie cuts back and forth in between all these stories, but we're going to hit them up one at a time and try not to give away the endings. The first story revolves around a family traveling to a rich aunt's house on Christmas Eve to see her, but the dad's actually there to ask money for investment for his company. Well, she quickly gets mad, kicks them out, but not before the son, on purpose, breaks a little figure of Krampus. Well, on the way home, something jumps in front of their house, and their car veers off and gets stuck in the snow. They're then forced to travel through the woods on foot. And then you guessed it, Krampus starts picking them off one by one with his hooked chains. No, not that Krampus. This Krampus. And then this story concludes back at the aunt's house. Our next story follows 3 high schoolers who want to be famous content creators. They go to a high school during Christmas break. This place is where 2 people were murdered the year prior, and there's no leads whatsoever. They get locked in the basement. And did I say this school used to be a religious school? No, we're not going there again. Well, creepy things start to happen to them. And then they start getting haunted by a ghost of a dead girl who died during childbirth when it was a religious school, and she starts killing them? Our third story follows a family of 3 as they go into the woods to cut down a Christmas tree that's on private land, only to lose their son for a very short time. But after looking for him, they find him. Or do they? As it turns out, it's actually a changeling from another world and has traded places with their son. Well, he starts to get aggressive and threatening, so will they be able to change him back for their real son? Only time will tell. Our last story finds us at the North Pole with Santa Claus. One of his elves dies, which is weird because his elves aren't supposed to be able to die. But that doesn't even last long anyways because his elf comes back as a zombie. The zombie virus spreads, and before you know it, Santa has to fight all the zombie elves himself and try to figure out who's behind this. So all the stories are taking place while we also get cuts of Dangerous Dan drinking on the air and talking about Christmas. And then he starts updating us about some sort of incident happening at the mall. The mall that they're having the food drive at and hosting, where one of his coworkers is at. He keeps trying to call his coworker Norman on the air, but never gets any response. And then we start hearing something about hostages being taken. What's going on at this mall? Man, I just hate being at the mall around Christmas time. It's crazy.
The crowd pounced like a pack of wolves. One woman appears to end up with someone's hand in her mouth.
So even though this movie is good and well made, I don't think there was any way it could live up to what I was hoping it was going to be. And it's not really its fault. That's on me. Most of the stories were connected by the smallest things. And the North Pole one and the Changeling stories, I feel would have been better suited as full treatments because they were interesting enough to carry on a whole movie. The weakest story for me was the 3 high schoolers. It kind of just felt out of place and didn't really connect in a smooth way for me. It was just too different from the other ones. On the positive side, this movie moves along pretty fast. The editing between stories is very good and feels very natural. The writing, directing, lighting, all the technical aspects are pretty solid here. The acting overall is pretty decent here, but for me, William Shatner steals the show. Anytime he shows up in a scene, I love it. I am entertained the whole time. He actually sounds like a real DJ too. If he was actually on the radio, I would listen to him. So for me, I give A Christmas Horror Story 3 out of 5. I'm definitely going to have to rewatch this one when I'm not taking notes to try to make a review video. So thank you for watching day 19 of 25 Days of Christmas Horrors. Join us tomorrow when we see what creatures were stirring.